Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations, AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. I'm here for 3 hours each week talking about the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. Why do I do this? I don't know. It's just something that has evolved over the years. It's part of my personal history, my family history. I grew up in a family of hunters and anglers and trappers and shooters, so it's just something that I can relate to. It's something I've been blessed to make a career out of, and it's something now that in the later stages of my career, I feel a certain desire, a certain conviction to try to continue this history and this tradition in whatever small way that I can. So I come on in here in the radio studio on this microphone each week for 3 hours talking about it. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, conservation issues, wildlife issues, even some wild game cooking, and we will do that once again this week. So what's going on in the outdoors since we last talked? Well, we had a bout of warm weather. No, not just warm weather. We had a bout of summertime weather that I physically and mentally wasn't quite ready for. Yeah, we had a cold spring, or we're having a cold spring for sure, but that bout of midsummer temperature kind of threw me for a loop. It didn't keep me out of the turkey blind. Didn't do me any good as far as the turkeys. I'm still out there chasing them. I've got through the end of the month yet. I continue to play cat and mouse with what started out as 2 longbeards at the beginning of the season. Now I'm not convinced that one of them hasn't gone away, hasn't gone to that big turkey roost in the sky. I don't know if a hunter got him. I haven't seen him laying dead on the road anywhere where he was strutting across the road and got hit by a car or anything like that. But I continue to work them over. But I am concerned about a couple of things. As I think about my turkey hunting experiences here in this same part of the state where I've been hunting for the last several years, and I talk with other turkey hunters, and I talk with landowners, and I talk with biologists, and I talk with people just driving the back roads on a daily basis, there is no doubt that the turkey numbers in Michigan, and unfortunately beyond, are down. In some places, considerably. Now, what's the reason for this? Is this a natural cycle? Do turkeys have cycles like grouse and woodcock do? I've asked this question of biologists and have not been told that's the answer. Is it a result of just weather in the springtime? Cold, rainy weather that the hens aren't getting successful hatches like they have in the past? Probably a factor. Predators, of course predators are a factor, but I don't believe that statewide there has been a dramatic increase in the number of predators that would correspond to a dramatic decrease in the number of turkeys like we're seeing across the state. Now, yes, there are still pockets in the state where there are lots of birds, but overall there seems to be no doubt that turkey numbers are down. Why? I don't know. And I'm not sure anybody knows. There are some interesting theories out there, and I hope to be able to explore those here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show in the near future as it becomes appropriate, as these people are willing to talk about those theories and maybe take them beyond theories to hopefully some kind of answers. But here's something else I'm seeing, and I am almost reluctant to bring this up because you might just think I'm flat out crazy, and maybe I am. But I'll go back to pheasants, ringneck pheasants. It used to be when you flushed a rooster pheasant, he cackled. And it was one of the most wonderful sounds in the natural world. When you kicked a bird up, or when your dog kicked a bird up, a rooster would always cackle. And aside from the visual proof from looking at that bird that it was a rooster, you got that audible confirmation, okay, that's a rooster, he's a fair target. Now, over the years, and I have not pheasant hunted in several years, but I get this from expert pheasant hunters, including Tom Lounsbury, who says rooster pheasants do not cackle anymore. He says, we shot all the cackling birds. I'm wondering if we're seeing something similar in the turkey world. This year, and this is not just my experience, this is the experience of a lot of hunters across the state. And again, it's not universal. Your hunt, your mileage may vary. But the birds are not gobbling this year like they have in the past. Again, is it weather related? Yeah, I would expect it early in the season when it was cold. Maybe they would gobble on the roost and hit the ground and not talk until mid-morning or whatever. I can't get birds to gobble, and I'm not hearing birds gobble, and I'm talking to other hunters who are still out there saying the same thing. I mean, I've been out there in the middle of the day in 80-degree weather when the birds should be gobbling their head off, and they're not. Are we seeing something in the turkey woods similar to what we did in the ringneck fields, that the birds that gobble and become easier targets are being shot off, and the birds that are left realize if I gobble, now they're not humans, right? They don't have that type of thinking. I don't know. What will turkey hunting look like here in Michigan in 10 years? Will the numbers be down? Will they gobble on the roost and not once they hit the ground anymore? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, basing this on what I've seen, basing this on my conversation with other hunters and property owners. Interesting, though. From my perspective, it's an interesting discussion. Maybe holds no water, but I find it interesting. While the number of turkeys is down, the number of geese certainly isn't. But I've been working on that. Since we last talked, I did get up the goose fence. The goose barricade is now in place. And those big flying rats can no longer come up into my yard and make the mess that they used to. And it is so rewarding to watch those big flying rats come up out of the pond with about a dozen goslings behind them, come waddling up to the yard, and they see that goose fence, and they sit there and they squawk at it, and they honk at it, and they gripe about it, and they are not happy at all. And that makes me smile. I love making geese unhappy because you can't get up in my yard, you big flying rat. Something else we're seeing more of, and not necessarily an increase in the number, the size of the population, but certainly the range, the geographic distribution. Bears, black bears. And this time of year, it's common to see bears more than other types of the year, right? Because they're up and they're active now, they're hungry, and they love bird feeders. If you have a bird feeder up in bear country, you may well get a visit, and your bird feeder may well end up on the ground. But we're starting to see it in parts of the state that it is kind of unusual. For example, the central part of the state, in Midland County, in fact, about a mile from where I lived a few years ago, a bear came into a bird feeder, and the homeowners got pictures of it, and they posted it online. And people, you would have thought there was a pack of wolves loose in a subdivision. I get it that if you're not used to seeing bears, they make you nervous. But I think bears are the most beautiful, wonderful, interesting one of critters in Michigan. And for the most part, they're very shy, and they're not aggressive. It's not like we got grizzlies coming into our backyard. They're black bears. You know, honestly, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So I think it's cool that we're seeing bear populations expand. I love bears, though. You know that. What else? My fishing season, thank goodness I'm still chasing turkeys because my fishing season is off to a slow start. The Angler Quest that I've been anxiously awaiting for, Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest himself, says it should be ready. He said, hopefully, in quotes, in air quotes, hopefully by Memorial Weekend. Well, that's coming up pretty fast now, isn't it? So I can't wait to get out there. What else? Morels. We've had enough rain in some parts of the state. Morels are popping. I've had people send in pictures to the Facebook page of giant morels. By the way, if you've got something going on in the outdoors and you want to share it with the world, go to my Facebook page and post it in the mentions tab, and I'll share it. As an alternative, you can send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and I will share that much more quickly, though. If you want to get it on, just post it directly in the mentions tab. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Mark Sak of Great Lakes Sportsman talking about springtime pan fishing. Then Bill Pyles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. He says we've got one more opening for our big bow hunting adventure in Ohio the third week in October. Bill will have the details on that. In hour number 2, Chad Stewart talking about fawns. It's that time of year, whitetail fawns. Also, and this is no great surprise, but you're going to have to register your whitetail harvest this fall. They've been working on that for a long time. Nick Greene talking about a fishing promotion they're working at in MUCC. And then hour number 3, retired Coast Guardsman Joe Marion talking about staying safe on the water. And then wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar has another great recipe. That's all coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And let's go north of the bridge to the Sioux, News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, let me see if I can get my papers. Who are we going to bring it to? Rapid River Knife Works. Yes, indeed. Rapid River Knife Works. You know the story. I've got a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I do every week here in the studio, as I do every day, all day long. I always carry a Rapid River knife. I'm carrying one of the custom handmade Rapid River folding knives, pocket knife. We used to call them a jackknife. It is an absolute beautiful work of art. It has a wonderful edge. And you know what? If the edge ever gets dull, I can either send it back to Rapid River or I can stop by the showroom there on US 2 outside of Rapid River and they'll resharpen it for me. They make fillet knives, they make skinning knives, they make kitchen knives, they make folding knives, all handmade by craftsmen there in the UP. Check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us, or as I say, stop by their showroom and you'll see what it is that I'm talking about. You know, in the first segment of the show, I talked about some things that are going on in the outdoors right now. I forgot to mention panfish. Panfish are an absolute riot. They can be easy to catch. They are a great target for kids. They're a lot of fun, and they are great table fare as well. Mark Sak is an avid pan fisherman. In fact, he's an avid angler as well. You can learn more about him online at greatlakesportsman.com, also his Facebook page. And he joins me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mark, welcome back. How have you been?
Good, old friend. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's been such a long time since we talked that I got thinking and said, why haven't I had Mark on the show lately? Because you were a big part of the show years ago, and I'd like to get you back on again now.
Well, I appreciate that. I've missed being on, certainly.
So tell us a little bit more about you. I mean, you're a very active outdoor writer. People can read your writings in Woods and Water News, I think, every month, right?
Every single month for the last 28 years, Michael.
Oh,
isn't that amazing? I was talking to Tom and Randy about that. I said, holy mackerel, where did this time go, you guys?
Well, it's a cliche, but when you're doing something you love, and you love the outdoors, you love hunting and fishing, time does indeed fly.
Yeah, it sure does. And there's been a lot of very important things to say, not just teaching folks and just keeping them up to date, but also opposing some things that are going against our outdoor principles. And as you get older, I think that becomes more prevalent in your writing, that we've got to make sure that we save what we love,
Absolutely. I mean, you and I could not agree more completely on that topic. So if you had to list your hierarchy of things you love in the outdoors, what's your absolute favorite thing as far as hunting or fishing?
Walleye fishing in Lake Erie, buddy.
You didn't even hesitate.
I tell people that's where God lives, down there. But, obviously I fished the Pro Tour for many years, and so I was very connected, and I've quite connected with a lot of people in that industry too. And there's a lot of really wonderful people there. And it's really nice. I don't fish professionally anymore, but it's nice to see that is still carried on, and see how the younger generation is trying to attack that. We just had the MWT down on Lake Erie out of Bowles, and it's just fun, and it's interesting to watch how guys are trying to adjust to the bites, just like we did way back when on the PWT. So, but I got to tell you, right behind that, obviously, is bluegill fishing, and and I'm still a big whitetail guy. I've really developed my property here for whitetails and pheasants and turkeys, and that's went well. So, kind of jack of all trades still. I'm just doing what I can do, Well,
and you bring up some topics I want to follow up on, but I do have to ask you, do you miss that world of competitive walleye fishing? I mean, you were right there in the heart of it for many years. Do you miss that?
Parts of it, what I don't miss, and every time I see a picture of big waves on Lake Erie or Saginaw Bay, I just put a little comment in there, line them up, boys, we're fishing. And I don't miss that. I can tell you, I've come very close to being struck by lightning when we were 20 miles offshore, and I absolutely do not miss those 4-footers that were busting for 25 miles. But obviously, being on the best bites in the country, and being able to go out to Lake Sakakawea and fish for 10 days, or to fish Mille Lacs for 10 days, is just the most outstanding thing an angler can do. So that's what I miss. I miss those mornings, waking up and seeing the sunrise over one of those fabulous bodies of water, obviously Saginaw Bay and Lake Erie, and even the MWT when we were fishing Houghton Lake and Hubbard Lake and Bays de Noc and those areas. You really, truly miss that. But I get to pick and choose when I go now, and they're usually pretty nice days.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to be said for picking your days of going fishing. You talked about turkeys here a minute ago, and this is a concept. This is a question I was bringing up in the first segment of the show. And I'm not gonna sway you one way or another. How are your turkey numbers in your neck of the woods?
They're not huge. They've never been huge down here because we don't have. I don't think we have the best habitat here, but they've been stable. I can tell you that. I mean, I've deer hunting last year. I saw a flock of about 30. That's about all we have in this section. And of course, this time of year they scatter pretty good. So and when you're hunting smaller sections of property in 20 acres or so, you've got a lot smaller chance to have those birds come into it. I mean, because they're scattered. So, I've got some great birds here, and you know what? I'm going to tell you this: I've probably got as many pheasants right on my property as I do turkeys. Believe it or not.
Well, I do believe it because you're an avid pheasant hunter, and you've been a strong proponent of habitat and habitat improvement for many years.
Yeah, and that's paid off. I mean, my switchgrass is still going strong, and I think just this morning I heard 4 different roosters crow right here, and it's and I haven't seen a turkey here since probably the 3rd week in April. So it tells you I've got more pheasants on my trail cams than I do turkeys on my trail cams. But, that's obviously, like I said, we don't, you like those real big hardwoods for turkeys that they can really feel comfortable roosting in, and then they've got to have the right food base there. They've got to have some great cover too. And, honestly, I'm not sure turkeys like switchgrass very much, but pheasants certainly do. So, you trade a little of that when you bring in some different habitat as well. So I think, for my personal area here, I think overall the numbers have been, they're not great, but they're stable.
You bring up a couple of things that I really want to follow up on with you, but I don't want to leave us with no time to talk about the topic at hand, and that is springtime pan fishing. So let's switch gears here a little bit, and in future conversations we can come back to these other topics. What is it about pan fishing? I mean, why do you like that so much?
I'll tell you what, it's the first thing I did when I was a kid growing up is I used to ride my bicycle over a bluegill pond. So, and it was just magical then. When you caught a big bluegill, it was like, holy cow, it just ingrained in your soul. And, I'm a big ice fishing guy. And so I actually bought my cottage with panfish in mind because we don't have any walleyes in our lake. So, for years and years and years, we used to go there bluegill fishing. And I can tell you this, this year has been the best panfish, especially bluegill year, that we've had in 15 years.
Wow.
And one of the issues is this winter we had good ice, but the previous 2 winters we had no ice. And what happens is when you get these inland lakes that you can't ice fish, it really provides carryover on those fish that are there. Because if you look at our little lake, and it's about 350 acres, we've got a bay that's off the northeast side that the bluegills really stack up in, and you get 20 to 30 guys fishing that regularly throughout the winter. Think about all the fish that come out of there. I mean, there's a substantial amount of fish that are harvested. And then, you add on top of that the bluegill spawn, and folks always like to go out and fish that, because it's a great time to take a kid out. But there's a lot of fish removed from that, and they're mostly males, which are very important, because they make the beds. And then, of course, you have jet ski season come upon us very quickly here, and they're already running on our lake. And when you have those shallow beds and you have somebody that has no idea that they're there and they run over those things, they blow them right out. So, they're very delicate. They're a lot more delicate than we think they are. And in the last 3 years, 2 of those years, those fish really just carried over. And so this year we saw nothing but 9 and 10-inch bluegills in our lake. They were just gorgeous. They were awesome. And the interesting thing was we had a lot of sportsmen that really didn't get on that very much. We never saw a day out there where we had more than 20 people on our bay. And I was dumbfounded by it. I thought, wow, that's amazing that we're not seeing the anglers that we did. But, you see it online all the time. You say guys are saying it online. We don't have the winners anymore, so I'm selling my stuff. And you see, there's a lot of guys that are still fishing Saginaw Bay and areas like that, but there are also a lot of people that are saying, the winners just aren't what they used to be. And so we certainly saw it on our lake. But I can tell you right now, we've been fishing the shallows on our lake, and we get a midge hatch. And a midge hatch is it's a goofy little thing. It's they're black, and they're try to explain them, but they don't bite at all. But they're the ones that like to fly in your mouth.
Mark, listen, hang tight. We got to take a break here. But I do want before. Where is the best place to find you online these days? Where would you send people to?
I would say, Great Lake Sportsman Fishing with Mark Sak on Facebook is one of them. Just my regular Mark Sak Facebook page is a good one, too.
All right. Hang tight, Mark. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Mark Sak, a veteran outdoor writer, a former tournament angler, a hardcore outdoorsman. And it's nice to talk with him once again. We'll take a break here on the show. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Mark, talking about springtime pan fishing. We'll get into the heart of that. And then we'll wrap up the hour with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, letting you know we have one more spot open for our big bow hunting adventure coming up later this fall. That and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK, another FM station, 95.3. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For more information, check out the website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. If you want to learn more about our guest right now, his name is Mark Sak, a noted outdoor writer, a tournament angler, hardcore outdoorsman. Do a search for Mark Sak Fishing or Great Lakes Sportsman on Facebook. You will find him there. Mark, I want to turn our attention back to springtime pan fishing. In your neck of the woods there, is the spawn over? Are the fish off their beds now?
No, they're not. They come really in phases, and it depends on depth of water. We see a pretty early spawn in the shallows, and I'm talking 1 to 2 feet of water right now. They're really bedding right now, but they'll go all the way up to Father's Day, which is mid-June. And I can just tell you, it is a great time to not only take kid fishing, but to learn how to use a fly rod, because bluegills absolutely hate black sponge spiders. And if you get one, you can work on your casting technique and just cast it out 10 feet. And I'm telling you, the bluegill will jump out of the water to crush the thing. It is absolutely amazing. So, if you ever wanted to fly rod, that is the greatest place to start, quite honestly. One of the things that I do is I have a slip bobber rig right in my bass boat that I have over on the lake, and I use the ice jigs that are out now, the tungsten jigs under the slip bobber. They work absolutely perfectly. And here's a good tip for everybody. Did you know that Pet Supplies Plus sell live crickets all year long? And I'll tell you what, they're very cheap. I was blown away by how cheap they are. And obviously they're selling them for snakes and frogs and whatever else in there. But boy, do they work for bluegills as well. And I pretty much leave the crawlers alone anymore. I'll use wax worms. I'll use gulp. I use many different things on them now. But the tungsten works so well because it pulls that line through the slip bobber very, very easily. And it gets it right down, and those fish just clobber it. I mean, it's one of the best setups that I've ever used on those things. So between that and the fly rod, boy, you can take a lot of bluegills out quickly. So you have to also, try to leave a few because we want them to keep spawning, obviously, and we want to keep that lake strong.
Is a tungsten jig heavier than a lead jig?
Yes, and I'm sorry I didn't mention that, but yes, it is. It's probably at least twice as heavy. I should have looked up the specific gravity on those things, but it is much heavier. So, and by the way, there's no lead there. So it's just a better thing to use these days. And there's so many great ones on the market. I really like the ones that are coming out. Northland has some that they have hair on them. So it also looks like a bug as well. And they're just outstanding. I mean, to the point where a day's worth of fishing and those bluegills will have ripped all that hair right off that jig. And using the wax worms or using the crickets just keeps the boat cleaner. You don't have all that mess. And it's just, in the gills, I'm telling you, they are guarding those nests. So anything that they see, they're going to run and whack it.
Does anything fight harder, pound for pound or ounce for ounce, than a panfish, a bluegill?
Nothing. They will pull the boat around out there. It's amazing. I mean, we just laugh, we chuckle because those fish are so strong and they're pulling so hard. And then, of course, you always have the largemouth that runs in to try to whack the bluegill that you're pulling in. And it's just a 3-ring circus out there, So believe it or not, I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm a granddad now, and I have 2 identical twin granddaughters. I've named them Thunder and Lightning, and I can't wait to get them out bluegill fishing because it is the best thing that you can ever do. Is just take your kids and your grandkids bluegill fishing. It is something they will always remember, and they will talk about the rest of their lives. It is special to us, obviously, to watch the smiles on their faces and see them enjoy that resource.
And to take them out and show them the joy of fishing, and then take it full circle and bring them back to the house and cook up some of these fish, and let kids see that this is part of how the natural world works. Mark, I think it's wonderful that you're able to do this. God bless you.
Yeah, we're going to have shirts made that says Team Grandpa Fishing.
Oh, well, good luck on that. Listen, it's been nice checking in with you. Let's get you back on the show soon and send people. Remind us, where do we find you online once again?
Yeah, it's just Mark Sak on Facebook or Great Lakes Sportsman Fishing with Mark Sak on Facebook.
Beautiful. Mark, a pleasure. Let's talk again soon.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap up this opening hour with a guy who's been chasing thunder chickens across the eastern part of the country all spring long. His name is Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, but he is also our outfitter for our big, what do we call it, an outdoor magazine bow hunt coming up in Ohio the third week in October, and we have an opening left. Bill will be on board to talk about that coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. Those are just a few of our more than 30 Outdoor Magazine radio affiliates. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since, 1946? I mean, they started out with feral tight. These days, they continue to innovate with new products, new gear. They make everything for bows and arrows except bows and arrows. And when I am in the turkey woods this spring, or the whitetail, or the bear woods this fall, or the whitetail woods this fall, always have Boning products with me and on my gear. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING.com. One of the places I will be hunting this fall, and I'm real excited to get back there, is back to Ohio to hunt with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. Now, last fall, we came up with this concept of an outing. And listeners of the show got together, and we went down to visit Bill. And we had such a great time. We said, let's go back and do it again. And you know what? We have an opening, and Bill Pyles is with us to talk more about that. Bill, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, big fella. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, how is your springtime turkey quest going?
I don't want to talk about it. We just got done chasing a timber dragon, and he kicked our teeth in. Oh, again.
I hate those birds.
It's rough.
But I love those birds.
Oh,
but I hate those birds.
Several days. It was nice to hear one gobble this morning.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I haven't been. I can't get a bird to gobble. I haven't heard them gobble up here at all. Is that you seen the same thing?
We've been to four states, and it's listen. The eastern turkey's in a world of hurt. If people don't believe that, then yeah, they're wrong. They're in a world of hurt.
Man, that coincides with what I've been saying this whole first hour. But I don't want to dwell on that. I want to talk about whitetails because we got another big event coming up. But we moved it back a week this year, right, Bill?
Yes, sir. We got past that, the full moon in October, so we should be. Last year wasn't too bad, but we had 4 days of 90-degree weather.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, this year's looking. The extended is looking pretty good.
So we're looking at the third week, which is this October 17th through the 21st. We'll come in a day early. Yep. Tell me about your operation, Bill. What are you offering our hunters?
We're a fully guided operation. Right now we're on 6,200 acres. We just closed on a couple of new farms. So we have 26 farms total under lease. It's fully guided, meaning lodging, meals, everything's included except your license and a processing fee for deer. So it's and being fully guided. Of course, we're not sitting with you in the timber, but all the equipment is set. Pretty much all you've got one job only: make a good shot. That is it.
Sit there, be still, shut up, stay off your phone, and make a good shot.
Oh, there we go. Everybody's putting phones in a bag this year. Everybody.
I don't blame you there. Now, this is not, and I have nothing against hunting a fence, but this is not a fenced operation. These are free-range critters, so you take what Mother Nature gives you.
Yes, sir. These are fair chase whitetails the way they're supposed to be.
But where you are there in Ohio, I mean, you're one of the hot spots in the country.
We operate out of Licking and Knox counties. Licking, actually, I believe Licking is still top 8 in the nation for Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett. So it's a great, Knox is no slouch. Don't get me wrong. It's in the top 5. But Licking County is pretty special. Well,
and you guys are a family operation. You've been doing this a long time. In fact, I think you're one of the longest running outfitters in the state.
For full time, yeah, we're at 20. We'll be 25 years this year.
Wow.
Running full time. We did it a couple years part time, but you can't run an operation like this part time.
Well, 25 years. What were you, 16 when you started?
No, I'm an old feller. I'm 57. Holy crap!
So listen, we've got an opening, and I wanted to get you on the show to let people know about this. Everybody who went down last year had a great time. So I'm throwing out the option. Look, if you've ever wanted to hunt out of state, but you've been a little bit hinky about it, come down and hunt Ohio with us. We've got a good group of people. I will personally vouch for this operation. I have hunted there several times. They're great guys. So what are the specifics, Bill? It's not a free hunt. You got to make some money on this thing.
Yeah, it's a 5-day hunt. Like I said, meals, lodging, everything's included. And we run that hunt for the Avery Outdoor Magazine hunt. We run it at $2,400.
Which is not a bad price, Bill. I got to be honest. People are going to say, oh, that's a lot of money. And it is, but I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, and if the guy, we make exceptions, and, if guys have trouble with, we do 50% down. If they have trouble with the deposit, we let them make payments. It's no big deal.
Yep.
So we're pretty laid back. I think it's a well-run organization. So
I do as well. The website is OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. You can use that website to get in touch with Bill, tell him you want to go on the Avery hunt, or send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Tell me you want in on this hunt, and I will put you in touch with Bill. And the chance to meet Johnny Bowler is worth the money in the trip itself, Bill.
I would pay double for that. I would definitely pay double for that.
All right, Bill. Thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to the turkey woods. We'll talk again soon. Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. We have an opening the week of October 17th through the 21st. Send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Tell me you want in on this hunt. Everybody else has already been there, and you want to get in on it too. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Chad Stewart of the DNR right here at Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Okay, so I make my point that this is first and foremost a radio show, and I do that to kind of differentiate this show from the myriad of podcasts that are out there these days. I have nothing against podcasting. I love podcasting. I think it's a wonderful way to get your message out, to tell a story, to cover a topic, to show people how to do things. Podcasting is absolutely wonderful. But this is the Outdoor Magazine radio show, is the biggest syndicated outdoor radio. It's one of the biggest syndicated outdoor radio shows in the country, and certainly one of the biggest statewide shows in the country, and certainly the biggest show here in Michigan, on more than 30 stations. And I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local radio station. You get your local news and weather and sports. The broadcast stations get the content of the show before the podcast is uploaded. Wait, what? There's a podcast version? Yes, there is. If you can't listen to the Outdoor Magazine radio show on your local affiliate, if you're not covered by a broadcast signal, or if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours, yes, there is a podcast made available. You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, every podcast outlet that's out there. Do a search for Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. I also do some, speaking of podcasts, I do some, the Outdoor Magazine Podcast Network each month. I produce podcasts for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest boats, Primal Tree Stands, and Polar Craft boats. And when we're done here in the studio, we will record this month's Polar Craft podcast as well. Regardless, though, of how you are hearing my voice, where you are hearing my voice, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I would not be able to do this as long as I have without your support, and it means a lot to me. So we're talking about what's going on in the great outdoors here in Michigan this time of year. One of the things that will be happening very, very shortly now, in fact, I haven't seen a report of one yet, but it's coming very soon. Fawns. Whitetail fawns are going to start dropping here across the state very soon. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but also want to bring up some news that is not a surprise. The DNR has been talking about this for a long time. They told us they were going to do it, and they are. I believe there will be mandatory online check-in of your whitetail harvest this fall. But why should I speculate on this when Chad Stewart, who is the big game specialist for the DNR, is waiting patiently on hold for me to stop talking? And he's here once again. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh, listen, it's always a pleasure. So you guys pulled the trigger on this. We're going to have the online reporting this fall?
Yeah, we're definitely moving that direction. I anticipate that to be fully implemented in the fall. We tried it out last fall, had enough of a test in terms of participation to feel like we were comfortable with more of a full release and higher traffic, with individuals coming through it and reporting their deer. So that's something that deer hunters can certainly expect going into this deer season.
You're kind of dancing around it. Is it going to be mandatory or not, or don't you know at this point yet?
Yeah, so we just presented that to the commission last week, and all indications are that it will be a requirement for hunters this year. So yes, we fully anticipate any successful hunter this year in Michigan in any of the in-season harvests that take place will be required to report their harvest through the online system or the mobile app that is in development and should be coming out later this summer.
And I realize, Chad, it's a little too soon to talk about specifics and details, but you say will be required. I mean, will there be repercussions if somebody doesn't do it?
So the language that indicates that hunters are required to report their deer will be incorporated in what we call our wildlife conservation order, which is where all of our deer regulations essentially lie. So potentially there could be repercussions. We've had extensive discussions internally and certainly with law enforcement, and like most regulations that come out in the first year, our law enforcement emphasis this year will be on education. Yeah. So I don't anticipate there to be a lot of financial implications or penalties associated with lack of reporting this year, as we're really primarily focusing on education and getting people to understand that this is now a requirement moving forward for deer hunting. But obviously in the future, as we get 2 years and 3 years out, hunters will be required to report their harvest online, even though this year it's primarily an educational focus.
Well, as you well know, there have been a group of hunters across this state, complaining for several years now, saying, "Well, we don't believe the DNR's numbers, and we think they're off. And how can they be accurate? How can they trust them anyway?" Well, this is a perfect answer to that, and with technology the way it is, I mean, it seems like an obvious choice, doesn't it?
Well, so that's the real advantage for this new system is the expediency of having data available to it. So we'll be developing a dashboard, what we call a dashboard, which is sort of a public-facing report card of all the harvest reports that are coming in near real time. It'll be updated daily. So hunters will be able to see and track the progress of how the reports are occurring throughout the year. And obviously, once we reach a certain plateau and realize that reporting rates are similar from year to year, they'll be able to compare year to year in real time. And that's something we've never had before. What's really important to understand about the online harvest reporting system is that we're under no illusion that everybody is going to report every deer harvest. No state that has this incorporated has a 100% compliance rate. So the way to look at it is really as a minimum report throughout the season. We've long since trusted our harvest survey and still believe that is the best way to estimate harvest. But what we'll be able to do now is incorporate the harvest survey postseason and certainly ramp that down, which will be a cost savings to us and an effort savings to us, because we're no longer starting from an estimate of zero harvest to get to where we need to be. We're starting with what's reported and then adjusting it based on compliance rates. We'll be able to combine the expediency of the online harvest reporting and the accuracy and sort of the confidence intervals and the statistics involved with the harvest reporting done in the summertime. So we feel that we've got a really good system and a plan in place to really get accurate information out there in terms of the harvest, not only in terms of expediency, but obviously accuracy as well.
One other side note here before we get to the topic at hand, whitetail fawns, and it may be after we take a break here. I want to follow up on a conversation I had on last week's radio show, and you and I talked about this off the air. I was talking with Dan Harrington of the United Deer Farmers of Michigan. We were talking about CWD in Michigan, specifically in enclosures and deer farms. Do you guys, as wildlife biologists, look at that issue any differently than you do free-ranging herd? Is there a concern that these farms are in any way a source of CWD, or do you not see it that way?
So we do look at them differently in terms of how we respond. Obviously, anytime that CWD is identified on the landscape, whether it's behind a fence or in the free-ranging population, it casts a sort of a scope of importance on that area to try to understand from our perspective if it's become established or present in the free-ranging deer herd. The way we view chronic wasting disease, whether it's behind a fence or in our free-ranging herd, is that it is a threat to deer on both sides of that fence. So our primary focus is to really try to establish relationships and work very closely with deer farmers to make sure that deer are safe on both sides of the fence. Because if CWD is present on either side of the fence, it presents a threat to both deer on that side of the fence and the other side. So we feel that it's important to establish those relationships and work closely to try to minimize the potential impact of the disease on any deer.
Well, yeah, for us as hunters, for you guys as biologists, it takes on one scope. But if it's your business, if you get it in your business and you have to take out every deer, it is a big concern. It's a financial concern, sure.
It absolutely is, and that's something that we're obviously very sensitive to as well. That there's livelihoods involved, especially when you talk about CWD in a captive facility. So again, that's why we put a lot of effort and emphasis on surveillance and trying to understand where the disease is in the state, and then that informs both hunters and captive deer owners as well about the potential threats that are involved. And then obviously there are certain things that captive deer owners can do to try to further minimize their impact or the impact of CWD getting into the captive herd, if that's their concern.
Chad, listen, I appreciate your patience. I told you I wanted to talk about whitetail fawns. We've talked about everything but whitetail fawns. We got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Chad Stewart, big game specialist for the DNR. When we come back after this break, I promise, we will talk about whitetail fawns. It's a wonderful time in the whitetail woods to come across one of these fawns. Absolutely beautiful. But don't pick it up. Don't take it home. More on that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM, also WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold WCBY 1240 AM 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles. AR-style, highly accurate, tough, and dependable hunting rifles that could change the way you think about your hunting gun. They're made in Lansing. How cool is that? Just down the road from the governor's office. For some reason, I find that extremely, gratifying. I've been seriously thinking. I've got a 350 Legend on order. I haven't picked it up yet. But I'm thinking seriously about using that 350 Legend on my Michigan bear hunt. Now, I will use my crossbow in Ontario in August for sure. I am primarily a bow hunter, but for some reason I'm feeling drawn to taking my first Michigan bear with a Michigan-made rifle. And I just might, if it is a rifle, it'll be that 350 Legend. Anyway, you can check them out online at BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. While you are online, I suggest you head on over to michigan.gov/DNR. The Michigan DNR website has kind of been redesigned. They had to make some changes to bring it in line with all of the Michigan government websites. But there is more information on that website, honestly, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and permits and rules and information, michigan.gov/DNR. I bring it up because right now we're talking with the Michigan DNR big game specialist, Chad Stewart. Chad, let's finally talk about whitetail fawns. Have you guys had a report there in Lansing of any fawns dropping in at all?
Yeah, we've seen several reports come through, some of them in high-profile areas. So they are definitely hitting the ground. I would say the peak is still probably about a week to 2 weeks away. But they're definitely out there. They're on the ground, and it would not be uncommon to stumble upon one in the woods right now if you're walking through.
Well, I get, finding one in the woods. You talk about high-profile areas. I know you can never figure out why deer do what they do, right? But how come these fawns drop these does drop these fawns sometimes in the craziest places?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the doe's social structure. So, the older, more mature, the dominant does are going to take the best habitat available for where they can stash their fawns in terms of safety. So what happens is you get some of these yearling does or even 2.5-year-old does that are having their first fawns, aren't quite as high in the social hierarchy and have to sort of deal with the habitat scraps that are left over, which means they have to drop their fawns in more risky locations. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, but there's probably a reason why they're doing it that way. And that's because they just can't pick and choose other places because other more dominant does have scoped those areas out and have and keep them out of it because they don't want their fawns imprinting on another doe and thinking that's their mother.
I continue to find the social interaction of whitetail to be fascinating.
Oh, there are books written on it, and still probably more books to be written on it. They're one of the they're probably the most widely studied animal in the world, and there's still more to learn about them. So they're just a fascinating individual, and that's obviously what attracted me to studying them, in my career.
You talk about these fawns imprinting. What does that mean?
So typically what a doe does is when she is close to giving birth, she will completely isolate herself on the landscape. And then what happens is when the fawns give birth, and then obviously the doe spends time away from those fawns because she doesn't want to attract any potential predators. If another doe comes forward or another deer comes forward, or sometimes even another animal comes forward, the fawn could look at that animal because it's still a newborn and think that that's its mother and start following it around. So it's something that, female does don't want to happen. They want that bond to be tight between them and their fawns. They want the fawns to identify them as the mother and obviously the source of nutrition. And they feel that they can best protect that animal from any potential harm or predator. So they don't want any animals, including other deer, around their fawns for the first couple weeks of their lives.
Crazy question, but could a fawn imprint on a person?
Yes, they can actually. The short answer is yes, and that's why we tell people not to pick up fawns, especially very young newborn fawns, because we have it happen all the time that people pick them up, they think the animal is abandoned, and they bring it into the house, they take it into the garage, and then soon after that, the fawn starts following the person around, and obviously the person is going to start providing them with some sort of formula or milk, and the animal starts looking at that individual, that human, as its mother, because it just doesn't know any better. And that's really the worst case scenario. That's what we're trying to avoid. And that's why we really emphasize to people, do not pick up fawns, do not move fawns from their native area.
We talk about this every year, Chad, and the consensus between you and I think, is these people they're good-hearted people. They think they're doing the right thing. They're just trying to help out Mother Nature, but Mother Nature knows better about Mother Nature than man knows about Mother Nature, so leave them alone.
There's no replacing for that doe-fawn relationship. And actually, I've been looking into this a lot this past year, but there was a study out of Connecticut that they followed fawns that were released from wildlife rehabbers. And look, wildlife rehabbers do a phenomenal job caring for abandoned animals, nursing them back to health and trying to rewild them. So they do a fantastic job. But this study in Connecticut found that nearly 90% of the fawns that were released once they left a rehabilitation facility failed to make it to 100 days after release.
Wow.
So they just don't have the survival skills to sort of that they learn from their mother, throughout the entirety of their lives. And there's really no substitute for that. So picking up a fawn, taking it out of the woods, while it seems like you're doing some sort of rescue or heroic thing, and I agree that with you that the heart is in the right place, it is really best to leave that animal in the woods, and chances are that mother will be coming back, and it's stashed there for a reason.
So the doe stashes that fawn, then she comes back how many times in a day to nurse that fawn?
Typically, when it's first born, it could be as much as 4 times a day. So there is a little bit more frequent nursing and visitation. As it gets a little bit older, those rates decrease. Maybe it's only twice a day. The fawn, for the first couple weeks of its life, will be essentially hiding, curled up in a ball, and because it's unable to outrun any predators. As it starts getting into about a couple weeks old to maybe 4 weeks old, it'll start consuming some additional vegetation. Obviously, it'll still be nursing. At that point, it becomes a little bit more aware and might actually take flight as it sees a potential threat approaching it. But the critical time really is over the next couple weeks, when those fawns are in the hiding phase of their lives, because that's when they're most easily picked up, because they have no flight sense at that point.
Is it true newborn whitetail fawns have no scent?
No, that's not completely true. The does determine each individual fawn based on its scent. So there is a little bit of scent there. The doe obviously takes a lot of time and effort to try to eliminate the scent around, especially the birthing site, because that could potentially attract a predator as well. So there's not much scent there, but there is some scent there. So to say that it has absolutely none would be incorrect.
So for these next couple of weeks, if you're a predator walking around the Michigan woods, you could have some easy pickings.
If you're able to find them, that's the thing. So and certainly some predators probably have a learned behavior and become specialized and sort of places to look, knowing that there might be some fawns out there. But what's great about the reproductive behavior and the physiology with whitetail deer is everything's synchronized. So the landscape is being flooded with fawns all at one time. And it's very similar to the reproductive patterns of like an oak tree and dropping all its acorns at once. You know that some squirrels or other animals are going to eat those acorns, but some of them are actually going to get into the ground as well, and that creates the next generation. Deer have a very similar reproductive pattern where they're putting all of the fawns out at one time, the progeny out at one time, and many of them will survive into the fall and into next year because it completely overwhelms the predator source.
It's so cool how all these things work together.
Mother Nature's pretty smart.
Yeah. Speaking of predation, though, I mean, obviously coyotes, if they wander on a fawn, they'll eat it. Wolves will. Bears will. But I didn't realize this. Eagles actually are known to prey on newborn fawns as well.
It could happen. I wouldn't say it's going to have a population level impact, but yeah, any type of predator, bobcats are another one that will take fawns in the deer woods. But you're right. Yeah, it could easily be reported that an eagle, if it advantageously pick up a young fawn and kill it and consume it. So, like I said, that would be sort of a rare and unique instance, but I'm sure it's happened, and I'm sure it probably happens every year.
Yeah. The only reason I bring it up is I've had people report that to me and said, Avery, I saw that. So I'm just throwing it out there. All right, Chad, listen, yeah. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure you and I will talk again soon as we work our way through the summertime toward the fall season.
Let's do it. Sounds good, Mike. Thanks. All
right. Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. Now, I bailed out on Chad just a little bit early because I'm going to make an editorial comment here. Don't pick up a fawn. Do not pick up a fawn. You might think you're helping things out, but look at even coyotes, bears, bobcats, they all need to eat too, right? Isn't it better for that fawn to continue to be a part of Mother Nature, even if it becomes food for another critter, than to pick up this animal and try to bring them into our world? Listen, I grew up on a farm. People were doing this all the time. They're always picking up, you see a fawn out in the hay field. Well, you'd pick it up and move it so the haybine didn't get it. I get that. But to bring it into the house, to bring it into the barn, because you want to somehow save that animal, and even if you do, have you really helped that critter out? Because you took it from being a wild animal into some kind of a pseudo pet. That's not what that animal was put here to be. The animal was put here to be a wild animal, and you interfering with that process, I know your intentions are good, but the outcome is always bad. Plus, keep this in mind, it's also illegal. It's illegal to pick up whitetail fawns. Nick Greene of MUCC coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Let's do a West Michigan tour. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. In Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. And in Ludington, News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-made Versa Skins. Owner Paul Perrone has come up with a great concept. Rather than spend all kinds of unnecessary money on your hunting clothes, because we all like our hunting toys, I get that. But why not just get one good set of clothes and then snap on and zip on an outer liner to change the pattern, from blaze orange to snow camo to waterfowl to whatever. Change your skin for the season you're in. The website is versaskins.com, versaskins.com. Check them out. A great Michigan-based, family-owned company, and you know I love that. You also know, if you've been here on the show with me before, that I'm a fan of MUCC. I think the Michigan United Conservation Clubs are doing a great job. Do I always agree with everything they're involved in? Of course not. But overall, I think they are a wonderful organization, and they're working hard for the outdoorsmen and women of Michigan. And that's why I'm a member of the group. Nick Greene is their Chief Information Officer. He checks in with us periodically, and he's with us once again this week. Nick, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a little soggy down here in Lansing, but hopefully by when folks are hearing this weekend, there'll be sunshine and out on the water.
Oh, excellent. I look forward to that. Hey, listen, a couple things I want to check in with. Number one, the new issue of the magazine, and also I'm seeing an online promotion all over the place with you and Jimmy Gretzinger.
Yeah, so I guess the new issue of the magazine should be rolling out in mailboxes here in the next week or so. That'll be a couple weeks ahead of the June 1 official publication, but that's not a bad thing, and then you'll be able to buy it June 1 on various newsstands throughout the state. The other thing we're excited about at Michigan Outdoors, who I'm also the editor of as our magazine, is doing a sweepstakes promotion with Michigan Outdoors TV and Jimmy Gretzinger. So we're going to do a half-day lake trout and salmon fishing trip out of Leland with Captain Tony Reddit-Avenich. He is the president of the Coalition to Protect Michigan Resources. So someone's going to be able to get entered in that, win a trip. It's going to be aired on MUCC TV. It'll be in the magazine. All of the funds raised are going to go towards offsetting the cost for the Coalition to Protect Michigan Resources. So this is a coalition that MUCC and several other stakeholders are involved in, and we are an amici to the consent decree negotiations that allocate our fishery harvests in certain lakes. So that's trying to dumb down as much as I can, but that's what the sweepstakes is for. It's a great opportunity to support sport fishing. Get out with Jimmy, meet Jimmy, get on TV. We're excited about it.
Well, and get out with Nick and meet Nick too.
Well, I'm not a very good angler or that cute, so Jimmy's a lot better looking.
I think this is wonderful because you're working to protect the resource as you enjoy the resource. So I think it's a perfect promotion. But you mentioned a group I hadn't heard before, the Coalition to what?
To Protect Michigan's Resources. So this group is the amici to the consent decree negotiations, and Coalition to Protect Michigan Resources is made up of the Michigan Salmon and Steelhead Fishers Association, MUCC, the Michigan Charter Boats, and I'm blanking on the fourth.
Well, that's
There's
all right.
a fourth. It's on our website, and we are basically the recreational angler voice during these negotiations between the state, 7 sovereign tribes, and the federal government. So we are trying to be that voice, and this was supposed to have been settled over a year ago. These negotiations are continually ongoing. There's costs associated with having lawyers, and so it's not going well. That's pretty apparent with it not being settled, but that's what the coalition's job is. That's kind of, and MUCC is an integral part of that.
Well, and I appreciate your honesty there because I know you are very limited in what you can say, and it doesn't matter how many times I ask you, you can't tell me the answer of specifics or what's going on or what are the sticking points. I get that. But you did say, too, this was supposed to be settled last year. Do you have a sense, Nick, for how much longer we're going to have to deal with this?
I think that the mediator and the judge have been pretty forthcoming about wanting to reach some kind of something, and there not being a lot of leeway for this continuing. I suspect that we will have some news in the broader conservation community. We'll have some bigger news this summer.
Okay. Fair enough, Nick. I realize you were stretching it to say what you did, and I appreciate it.
Yes, we are. As you said, we're bound by NDAs. We have to be very careful.
Well, and I appreciate the job you guys are doing there in Lansing. Nick, always a pleasure. Let's check in again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey,
over to MUCC.org to get in on the sweepstakes. Yes. It'll be a banner ad.
Thank you. That's the one thing I was going to ask. So you go to MUCC.org. It's a banner ad. You can click on there to get in on that bidding on that fishing trip with you and Jimmy, right?
Yes, it'll be in all of our communications and on our social channels, too.
Perfect. Thank you for that reminder. Nick Greene of MUCC. Again, go to MUCC.org. Click on that banner to get involved in helping to protect sport fishing in Michigan. And maybe you could go fishing with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Outdoors TV and Nick Greene, the editor of Michigan Outdoors Magazine and the Chief Information Officer for MUCC. I think it's a pretty good deal. By the way, if you're looking at good deals, go to MUCC.org, use the promo code Mike, all caps, M-I-K-E, and save 25% as you sign up for the first time to become an MUCC member, just like I did. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap up this second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment. I'm still mulling over some topics here. I've got some options. Let's see where it goes. We'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Let's do a UP tour now. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. You can also hear us in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT 600 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us over in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Now, the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send me a question that you would like me to answer directly, or you would like me to pass along to somebody else, MUCC, DNR, the feds, somebody that maybe you can't reach, but I might have access to. The best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. In fact, that email is the best way to get in touch with me for anything. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, guests you would like to hear on the show, guests you are sick of here on the show. I mean, absolutely. Send me your comments, your questions, and your questions for the Ask Avery segment to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm not going to attribute this particular question to any given listener, but this I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. I have people routinely ask me about the state of the outdoors here in Michigan. What is my perception of the state of the outdoors? Now, there are several ways to look at this. I think our outdoor heritage here in Michigan is strong. It is viable. It is vibrant. It is healthy. In a state like Michigan, where so many people turn to the outdoors for recreation, for relaxation, for food and wild game, we have kind of a unique history here. We're kind of a special place. We're surrounded by Great Lakes, and we have a lot going on. And for the most part, it is very, very strong. It is very, very good. I'm pleased. I am happy with what I see overall going on here in Michigan. New generations are coming into the lifestyle, and our state has a lot to offer. Are there concerns? Absolutely. Chad Stewart was on earlier talking about CWD, chronic wasting disease. Now, I know not everybody has bought into the concept of chronic wasting disease and the fact that it's a threat on the whitetail herd. I get that. And I'm no biologist. I'm no expert. I don't pretend to know what the real answer is. But because the experts in the DNR believe that CWD is a concern, it needs to be a concern for us because they make rules, regulations, and laws reflecting that concern. So it is real because we have to deal with the repercussions. I mentioned earlier turkeys, and again, in your part of the state, maybe the turkey population is as healthy as could be, but there's something going on with the turkey population. And Bill Pyles from Ohio was on earlier too, Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, saying that he has hunted several eastern states this spring, and he said, absolutely. And it's down. It's down here in Michigan. Nick Greene of MUCC was talking about the negotiations with the tribes, the consent decree negotiations. This is a big deal. And we don't know how it's going to turn out. You know, there was for the last couple of years real concern with the non-native commercial anglers here in Michigan, trying to restrict their catch. That kind of got stonewalled, and I'll give all the credit to the Michigan Restaurant Association and the commercial fishermen, because they banded together and they became a very strong political force. So when people say, well, you know, what can I do? I, as an individual, they ask me, what can I do to try to keep this outdoor lifestyle going? Honestly, I think the best thing you can do is to teach your kids, teach your grandkids, teach the future generations what this is all about. Take them fishing. Take them out bluegill fishing this time of year. You know, a kid hooks a bluegill, it's a cliche, but they're hooked on fishing. Your friends, your neighbors, the people you know from work, from church or whatever, who are non-hunters and anglers, take them out fishing sometime. And here's the thing that really sticks in the craw of people like us is you've got to become more politically active. Now, I'm not talking about picking up a sign and going to Lansing and marching around the Capitol. I'm just talking about voting, getting to your representatives, telling them what you think, getting involved in conservation groups, whether it's MUCC or another group that you feel more comfortable with, whatever. But the days of just sitting back and letting the politicians and the antis and the big money people decide what's going to go on, if we sit back, they will decide. So we have to get involved. And I know that as hunters and anglers, we are, as a group, we are individualists, sometimes loners. We don't like to join. We don't like to get involved. But we have to. So my take on the state of the outdoors here in Michigan, it's strong. It's good. The future looks bright. There are some hiccups out there. There are some concerns. But if we as hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers do our part to teach this lifestyle to future generations, to defend and protect what we have now, everything's going to be good. Thank you, Security Credit Union, for making the Ask Avery segment possible. SecurityCU.org. Well, coming up after the break, we'll talk to retired Coastie Joe Marion right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. As I look at the calendar, I just realized something. Next weekend is Memorial Weekend. How did that happen? Oh, man. It was just Easter. And now it's Memorial Weekend coming up. What does that mean here in Michigan? Well, the unofficial kickoff of the summer season, right? Regardless of what the calendar says, regardless of what Mother Nature says, Memorial Weekend is the unofficial kickoff of the summertime season here in the great state of Michigan. That means people will be hitting the roadways. They'll be heading to the campgrounds, heading to the park, grilling on the back patio on the back deck. And a lot of people are going to be hitting the water for the first time this year. I might be one of them. Normally by now, The Angler Quest would be in the water, at the slip, and I would have several fishing trips under my belt. This year, with the design change and the supply chain problems, it's harder to get your hands on a boat. But Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest, says he is hopeful, in quotes, that mine will be done by Memorial Weekend. So I'm hoping I will be one of those folks splashing a boat for that weekend coming up. I've always loved the water. I mean, I grew up fishing a little creek near home, creek for brook trout, and then kind of graduated to bigger streams and rivers, and then at some point I was introduced to Lake Michigan by my dad. He was an avid salmon and trout fisherman, and we spent a lot of time out on Lake Michigan. We fished Muskegon a lot, Ludington, Manistee, Frankfort, and then discovered Saginaw Bay walleye. We're actually in my backyard. Spent a lot of time out there, still out there as much as I can, whenever I can be. I love the water. I love the big water. I love all water, but there's something about the big water, being out in the Great Lakes, and we're surrounded by them. We're so blessed here. It can be a lot of fun, but when things go bad on the water, when things go south on the water, they tend to go south very fast. And there's no tow truck around the corner. There's not another car driving by to help you out. I mean, it's a wonderful place, but it's a place that you have to give it respect. Joe Marion is a guy who knows this probably better than anybody. Joe's a retired coastie, and I use the term coastie with affection. Like my dad was a police officer, I call him a cop. To me, that's a sign of affection. A coastie to me is a sign of affection. If we've got any Coast Guard people listening and they look at it differently, I apologize, but I don't mean anything by it. It's the term that comes out of my mouth. But Joe is retired. He spent a career on the water. And he can't get enough of it. So these days he's still out there on the water, not working for the Coast Guard, but he's as a charter captain and so much more. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about life on the water and things to keep in mind. Welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Great, Mike. Yourself?
Well, I'd be better if I had my boat, but I'm doing pretty good.
Well, I put my boat in the water. We're having fun. Fish are starting. Kings are really starting to get going here out of Ludington. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, everything so far early in the season is pointing to a pretty good year, isn't it?
This is the earliest that we've had alewives show up in a long time. And we got a lot of pictures that I've been seeing lately of a lot of die-off of alewives on the beach. We haven't seen that in over 10 years.
Wow. And let's listen, for people who are a little younger than you and I, let's go back to the beginning here. The reason king salmon are in the Great Lakes is because of the alewife die-off, and they put the kings in there to feed on them. So that's very interesting.
Right. And we had so many alewives in the past that all of Michigan's beaches were covered with almost a foot of alewives every season, every June, July. You couldn't get away from them, and there was no predator that could control it enough. Lake trout didn't suspend enough to take them, and there was no other predators. And they opted to bring a coho and the Chinook salmon in, and they just took off, and it's been a great thing for us ever since.
Well, isn't it though? I mean, when you look at that conservation success story that's been, the millions of hours of enjoyment that it's given for people, the millions of dollars of income that it's generated, it's been a great ride.
Yes, it has.
And of course, Joe, as I mentioned, you've been on the water your entire life. I mean, as a kid, you grew up first mate in a charter boat, right?
Yeah, I started first mating out of Collier's Marina in Tawas back in 1982, 83. Got my license in 85. And right around 85, 86, we had the very, very bad situation of BKD, the bacterial kidney disease, in the salmon. That really put a hurt on the fish population at that time and the charter business, and I looked for another option, and I joined the Coast Guard and did that for 20 years. But I bounced back and forth. I was stationed in Michigan at 5 different units, and I was able to work charter boats or work my own boat and still keep on fishing the salmon. And And then my last unit here, as you know, was in Ludington, Michigan, and I loved it so much I stayed. I'm still running boats here.
Remind me, where were you stationed over the years?
Well, just Great Lakes stations or all of them?
No, all of them. All of them.
I started out in Boston, Massachusetts on a 378-foot cutter that did drug interdiction and immigration and search and rescue down in the Caribbean. That was a great time. Left there, I went to Station Tawas, Michigan. And then from Tawas, I went up to Marquette. And from Marquette, I went back to Tawas. I was there for a couple of years. Then I went to Astoria, Oregon. And I was out there on a 210-foot cutter, did patrols from Alaska down to Mexico doing fisheries and drug interdiction. And then I left there and I went to Saginaw River. And from Saginaw River, I came here to Ludington, and I retired from here.
I got to tell you, Joe, looking at it from the outside, that sounds like a pretty cool career.
Oh, I had a blast. Seen things I probably would never have seen if I hadn't have done it.
Why was do I call it a ship or a boat out of Boston cutter? Why was a cutter out of Boston running down in the Keys in the Caribbean?
They do a lot of that, and it's a lot of it. I tend to think it was psychological because you're gone for 2 months, and if you're far enough away from your home port, you tend not to want to gravitate towards it. That's how my mindset was. I was gone for 2 months. Port's 1,500 miles north. I'm not going to get there tomorrow.
Same thing then when you were on the West Coast, I would imagine.
Correct.
When you were on the West Coast, did you play around with the school out there that teaches the pilots how to roll the boats over?
Well, I did that when I was stationed in Marquette. I went to that school in 1994 and learned how to drive those boats. And they don't teach you how to roll them over.
After I said that, I thought, well, that's probably the wrong way to say
it. they teach you. They try to teach you wave avoidance.
Yeah.
Anytime the first line in the manual for the 44s, there's an operator's handbook. The first line says the boats are designed to roll over, but they don't like it.
So, knowing that, did you ever roll one?
I've never rolled one. I came real close. A guy up in the watchtower at Cape Disappointment there at the mouth of the Columbia River, Oahu, Washington, watching us do surf drills when I came in after I went probably about 100 degrees over. He said that just to let me know that both rudders and both screws are still on the bottom of the boat.
Oh, man. Where can you spend a career protecting our people and having so much fun out on the water?
That's about the only one that I can know of. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And there's so many things that you can do, and I only did a fraction of the possibilities.
So then you're done with that. You come back to Michigan. You finish at Coast Guard Station Ludington, and then you jump right back in a charter boat again.
Yep. Yeah, So I moved here in 2003, and the guy the guy that I started running with, Gary Smith off the Rodmaster, his son was in the Coast Guard and worked with me at Saginaw River.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when I came over here, him and his dad and a friend of theirs from the campground, they showed up at my work, and we chatted for a couple hours. They invited me to go fishing, and he couldn't shake me off his boat until he sold it last year.
Well, that's what I was thinking. You're not with Rodmaster anymore. Who are you with now?
No, I'm with Lialot. Charters out of Ludington here, Mike Dark. Great guy, great boat, and it's looking forward to a great season.
Well, I am sure it's going to be. Listen, Joe, we shot the breeze enough here just about you and your life that we ran out of time for this segment, but I got to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about this, this early boating season experience, the things you've got to keep in mind, and then let's also talk about how to keep us and our family and friends safe on the big water as the summer goes along. You got a few more minutes for me?
Oh, yes.
I appreciate that. Joe Marion, by the way, the charter company he's working with now out of Ludington, Lialot, it's lialot.com. Lie, as in fisherman lie a lot.com. I don't know. All fishermen lie except you and me, and sometimes I'm not so sure about you. Lialot.com. That's lialot.com. More coming up after the break right here with Joe Marion. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 2 stations. The Twister 92.1 WTWS and Blowtorch Powerhouse Station 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland as well on WHTC, that's 1450 AM and 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. A very honorable goal, right? For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. A reminder on that website, 2 things. Right now, there's a banner across the top of that page, that website, MUCC.org, where you can enter to win the contest. I don't know if it's an online auction or if it's just a contest. There is a price to enter, and the trip is a half-day Lake Michigan charter with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Outdoors TV and Nick Greene, the editor of Michigan Outdoors Magazine. All money raised there will be used for legal bills in the ongoing consent decree negotiations. Also, while you're at that website, MUCC.org, if you use the promo code Mike, all caps MIKE, to sign up to become an MUCC member, you can save 25%. So lots going on at MUCC.org right now. Another website I would have you take a look at, liealot.com. Lie, like fisherman lie, right? Liealot.com. That's the website of the charter company, the charter service that my guest right now, Joe Marion, is working with. Joe is a very interesting guy. He spent his entire life on the water. He started out working charter boats, did a 20-year stint in the Coast Guard, retired from there, and now he's back on a charter boat on Lake Michigan off Ludington. So it's a pretty cool story. Joe, as we get ready to kick off this unofficial boating season, now I realize hardcore anglers have been out there for a long time, but for a lot of people, Memorial Weekend kind of kicks the boating season off. What would you like us to keep in mind in all the years of experience you've got out there? What should we be thinking about?
Slow down. Slow down when you're getting ready to launch your boat. Think about what you're doing. I was down at the launch ramp earlier this season. Watched a gentleman putting his boat in the water, and he kept on backing it in, and it wasn't floating off the trailer. He couldn't figure it out. He finally realized that he never unhooked the safety chain or the strap.
You know, and listen, I get that. You're excited. It might be the first trip of the year. You want to get on the water. I get that. I can see that happening. So I like your advice of slowing down and just give everything a double check.
Did I mention I was the only one launching my boat that day?
No, you forgot. I think I interrupted you before you got to the punchline.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. You get complacent. You forget your boat plug. You forget to unhook the boat. Your line's hanging down, might get caught on something. Small things like that make the day start off irritable and can keep going in that direction if you don't just slow down, stop, regroup, and redirect, and just make sure everything is done right.
Well, but
it's always good to have a second. It's always good to have a second person with you watching you too.
Absolutely.
With the camera.
You with the camera and post it on YouTube. You mentioned the boat plug. I mean, that's a small thing that can lead to a big thing. And I gotta be honest. My dad and I were launching his boat at the mouth of the Saginaw River for walleye, and 2 experienced boaters. We put that stupid thing in the water and forgot to put the plug in. So I've been there. I've done that one.
It happens every year at every launch ramp in Michigan and beyond. And you know how many that can be, but it happens every year.
Yeah. But I like what you say, too. I mean, I don't like it, but I get what you're saying about if you start the morning or the day out and you're on a negative note, a negative vibe, that does carry over to your day on the water, or at least it can.
Well, it does. And I'll tell you, having a negative vibe keeps fish away, too. I've had those days.
I think there's a lot to that, Joe.
Mm-hmm. But but big thing is just go through your safety equipment before you leave home. Go through your life jackets. Make sure the straps are all secure. There's no mold or rot from the winter storage. Your fire extinguishers are all up to date and charged, and they're not stuck. Shake them. Make sure you can feel the PKP powder in there moving around, because if you go to use one and it's been sitting in one spot for 2, 3, 4, 5 years without being used, and you hit the button, all you're going to do is expel propellant, but none of the firefighting capabilities are going to come out with it because it's all packed in the bottom. Life rings, air horn. Make sure your air horn works. If your air horn's not working, if your horn on the boat's not working, make sure you get one of the ones that little button one you can carry with you. Make sure you have the whistles, everything that you need to make sure that it's a safe trip out there. And ways to communicate. Flares. Make sure your flares are not out of date. And when you go buy new ones, make sure they're 3 years available when you buy them. Don't buy them that are going to expire next month.
I got to go back to life jackets for a minute, because there's like a love-hate thing with relationship with almost all boaters and life jackets. If you ever really need them, you love them. But for the most part, we hate them. They're in the way. We got to store them. We got to figure out how to put it. They're ugly. They're bulky. There's got to be a better solution to this, Joe.
Well, the inflatable life jackets take a lot of the bulk away from it, but the thing with inflatable life jackets is you have to wear those for them to be legal. You can't take an inflatable life jacket and set it in the boat and say, well, okay, I have it. Because there's too much process of having to put that on. You can't grab that and say, So having an inflatable needs to be worn, on the person for it to be an available life jacket. But they are comfortable. They are less bulky. They are cooler than the bigger ones. And they work. They work well. You got multiple kinds. You got ones that are just manual inflate where you have to pull a lanyard every time. Then they got the ones that have the little pill that you put up inside it, and when that pill dissolves when it hits water, it automatically inflates it. If you're going to be getting in a wet environment, jet skis and stuff, I don't recommend those.
Well, and that makes sense. I got this image coming through my mind here of all the years you were out there in the water. What's it like, Joe, to pull up on a scene and you've got people in the water, and it's that dreaded orange life jacket that we all dislike so much that's actually keeping that person alive? What's going on in that person's mind? There's got to be absolute terror when you end up in the water because something's going on with your boat.
Oh yeah, you don't. It's the worst feeling in the world. You're not even thinking of your boat at that time. You're thinking you're in the water. Are you going to be rescued? When we pull up and see people with life jackets on, we're relieved, and we're really relieved. And they say all 5, 4, 3, however many people are accounted for.
You talked about communication on the water too. With cell phones these days, is there a reason to have a marine radio?
It's never a wrong thing to have. Stations, Coast Guard stations, all still respond to Channel 16. They all have what they call, when I've got out, they were just starting it, and it's really ramped up. Is what they call Rescue 21, and that is all of the high tower sites that they have are all linked to computers. So when you key your radio up on Channel 16, it puts your position on their computer.
Can they get that from a cell signal?
Right now, there's a lot of work to get, and a lot of people shut that tracking system off on their cell phone because they don't want to be found. Mm-hmm. So if you've got that shut off, it doesn't help. They can use that. They can access that. And then the next thing they can do is just ping off towers and figure out in a general area. But cell phones are valuable. They're smaller. They're not usually attached to your boat, and they can fall over the side a lot easier. I've been in a boat where I've reached down and grabbed the mic from the radio that was underwater and still was able to transmit for a little while.
Wow.
They are sealed and water not waterproof, but they're watertight for the most part. So they do operate for a period of time, even submerged. so that if you need it, like a fire extinguisher, if you need it and you don't have one, you're really going to regret it.
Yeah. At what point?
They're not that expensive.
At what point? They're not that expensive. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you know what, Joe? Even if they were, how much is the safety of you and your crew and your family worth?
Oh, exactly. But there's no excuse not to have. If you got a 12-foot boat and you're only going 500 feet offshore and you're limited and you don't have a battery on the boat, handheld radio would work out great. But I've pulled people in that situation out of the water too late also.
At what point should we call for help? I mean, my concern would be, man, I don't want to call in the cavalry here and get all these rescue units all fired up and get everybody moving my direction and find out this didn't turn out to be an emergency. What's the litmus test?
There isn't one. You feel it right at the beginning, get them going. They're not right next to you already. They got to come from a distance. Give them that lead time. If you think you have a problem, call. It's easier to call them and say, sorry, it didn't happen that bad. I was able to put fire out. I was able to stick a finger in the hole, pump it out, and we're all good. We don't need your help. Than for the worst to happen.
Joe, can you hang tight? I'd like to give you the coveted third segment if you can give me some more time.
I can do that.
I was hoping that. Joe Marion, a retired Coast Guardsman, avid big water angler, and also a charter captain as well. He got his captain's license as a very young man. He's working for a charter company out of Ludington now called Lie A Lot. Their website is liealot.com. That's liealot.com. If you're looking to book a trip, I would recommend these guys. I don't know the other guys in the company. I don't know the other captains in the company yet, but I do know Joe. And just the opportunity to spend some time on the water with him and listen to his stories and his fishing ability, and it would be a very fun, enjoyable, and informational few hours on the water. The website, liealot.com. That's liealot.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, wrap up our conversation with Joe, and then after that, we'll wrap up the show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Port Huron at WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM and 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW 790 AM and 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. I'm in here with Pat Johnston doing a wonderful job as always. Pat, do certainly appreciate it. Also appreciate the fact that this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. I've seen so much of the work these folks have done. In fact, they've done quite a bit of it at my place. And it's just wonderful. They can take a plain old backyard and just turn it into a retreat. Now, it's wonderful to go up north. It's nice to go up north, but what if you could just walk out your back door and have some place that you enjoyed spending time at? Well, the folks from Reader can help you out with that. They can also help out with the maintenance of your lawn and property, trimming of trees, pruning, fertilization, weed control, landscaping, and they can mow if you want. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's REDER, readerlandscaping.com. I want to wrap up my conversation now with Joe Marion. Joe, retired Coast Guardsman, a guy who spent his entire life on the water. So, Joe, you actually had your captain's license, your charter captain's license, before you went into the service.
Yes.
When? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I was 18 years old.
Man, you jumped on that right away.
Well, I was a happy camper. I was had by the world. I was, the charter company I was working with out of Collier's Marina there. They were more than happy to give me a boat and let me run. But then salmon fishing kind of fell off.
For an 18-year-old kid, what a ride that must have been for a couple of years.
Oh, I had a blast. Still am.
Well, and I can tell, and I think that's wonderful. Joe, when you retire out of the Coast Guard and you would want to become a captain, a charter captain, could you come out and be a licensed captain just because of your training, or would you still have to go through all the process?
You still got to go through the process. And we've argued a lot on the boats and mate side of the world, because we drive the boats. We have to do our nav rules every 5 years. They have to keep current. If you're in the ship world, you're doing DWO. So if you're doing, sometimes you have to do both in the Coast Guard, but you have to keep your nav rules current every 5 years. And you're always training, and you're always out there doing things. And if you're at a small boat station, like a couple of them that I was at, your auxiliary taught boating safety. So you're down there teaching boating safety also with the auxiliary, because they always ask for help. And so we always argued with the fact that, we're the professionals. We should get
exactly.
some sort of, because the guys doing electronics, they have to be certified to work on the ships. They go to school to become electronic technicians, just like we went to school to become boats and mates. But then they have to be certified to actually work on the electronics. When they get out, they carry that certification with them and they can work on electronics as a civilian. We don't get that. And we've always argued it. They never given it to us, but we still, it doesn't take much to go through and get your license after that. Most of it, but I'll tell you, I did go through about 10 years. I didn't go and renew my license. I kept my nav rules current through the Coast Guard, but I was overseas when it came to renew it the one time. And when I went to go renew it again, I went and took the test, and I passed. There's 5 sections. I passed 4 sections with no problem. The nav rules, they always throw those tricky questions in. And even though I know my nav rules real well, I always had missed it. I missed it on 3 tests every time. And because I did, I decided, you know what? I need to get my license reactivated. And so I did. I went and took a course. And I helped the instructor teach the course and took my test, and I passed at that time and got my license renewed in 2013. And I've been, running with Gary as a captain ever since. Up to that time, I was just running as first mate, and I was happy. But he was like, no, we need to get you back behind the wheel and so that I can take a break. I said, okay.
All right, one last quick question before I let you go. And you've talked about this a little earlier, but again, one thing, not at the boat launch, but once you are on the water for the first time this summer, what do you want people to keep in mind?
Keep their surroundings. Just keep everything in check. Remember, you're not in your natural environment when you're out on the water, and don't get complacent. Everything out there, once you start thinking that you got it down pat, you start ignoring it, that's when it's going to sneak up and get you. Don't let Mother Nature show you that it's smarter than you, because it'll win every single time. Just be prepared for those things that could happen. Think about it. Look at you're out there driving around, trolling for hours on end. Look at your first aid kit. Think about the things that could happen. Training is great, but if you don't think about those possible accidents, what would you do if your boat started sinking? Yeah. What if you could do if you got a hole in the boat? Do you have the equipment? How do you use it?
Well, Mother Nature is a fickle, and she will win every time if we let her. Joe, listen, always a pleasure, my friend, to talk to you. Have a great season, and I'll send people to the website, liealot.com. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Well, do you know that music by now? I do. I hear it in my sleep. I have dreams where I hear that music. The dreams are always, they're usually like, oh no, I hear the music starting and I'm somewhere outside of the studio and I can't get into the studio. And either Pat or Charlie's like, Avery, where are you? The show is starting, the segment's starting, and I can't get there. It's like, oh, my worst nightmare. But in real life, I am right here and raring to go and talk with my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dave Minar. David, how are you, buddy?
Mike, you don't know how many times I've had that same scream. I don't get any reception, or it's too noisy or something, and it's just in a panic, like, what am I going to do?
We just wing it. We get through it all. But listen, we got good reception now, so let's take advantage of it. What do you have for us?
Well, we got wild turkey steaks, Dijon. It's a French-style dish. We used to do this tableside with venison or beef tenderloin, and a guy a couple years ago gave me a half a turkey breast, a lobe, you know. Mm-hmm. Myself and our chef made this recipe, and it would come out just great with wild turkey. So I'm sure everybody would enjoy this. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces of trimmed steak per person. Cut it across the grain, and when you get it thinner like that, maybe inch and a half thick, you'll be able to check real good for shot, bloodied meat, or any feathers driven into the flesh. So you need a nice sized medium onion, diced real fine. And if you like shallots, when you can find them, you need 2 of them nice big ones. Dice them up real fine, too. And 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. If you want, use mushrooms from the grocery store sliced thin, or morels. This time of the year they're coming out pretty good from what I understand. I haven't found any myself, but I've been looking. A couple ounces of Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, a nice bourbon. And you could use either white wine or red wine with this. It's okay because we make a lot of French dishes like coq au vin and cordon bleu with a beef gravy, so it's fine, whatever you prefer. A couple ounces of heavy cream, a jar of beef gravy, or more or less to your taste, and you're going to need a couple of tablespoons, more or less to your taste, of a good Dijon mustard. That Great Poupon, they make one, and it's not so good. Get a nice French mustard. It's all the difference in the world. Fresh ground pepper that you're going to grind on both sides of the meat, a little flour, and a little olive oil. So after you grind the pepper on the meat, you're going to pound the steaks between 2 sheets of plastic to about a half-inch thick, or maybe a little less than that, depending on how big the bird is you got. So in a saute pan, after you brown the steaks, after you put it in the pepper, the olive, the flour, and then with a nice hot pan, you're going to sear it off real good in the olive oil. So you're going to put that in a casserole. And then in the same pan, you can add the onions, the garlic, the shallots, and saute that for just a couple of minutes over a medium heat. And then away from your stove, if you like, you can flambe with the Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, whichever you prefer. When the flames die down, that's when you can return it back to underneath your hood vent there, because you don't want to catch any of that grease that might be in there. Or first, you could add the red wine, and then it's not going to, or white wine, whichever you prefer. It's not going to really flame up too much. So reduce that down a little bit, get rid of some of that liquid. Add the mushrooms, the gravy, the heavy cream, the mustard, and you can sprinkle a little more black pepper on it. And reduce it down just a little bit, and then pour it over the steaks, bake it open. You want to cook that down even more for about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the age of the bird, at a 350-degree oven, as I said, uncovered. And, man, it would be great with fiddleheads this time of the year. You just can't believe how good they become. So I love it.
Dave, you mentioned fiddleheads last weekend, too. Tell us more about those.
Well, they're coming up now real good. There's 2 different kinds. There's a one that's got the little tuft of, looks like cotton on it, and those are the bracken ones. You don't want to, those are bitter, more, not good like the other kind that have none of that. And you want to break them off like you were picking asparagus, just the same way. Break them off wherever they break. The tougher stuff stays down below, and you got the nice tender stuff. I like to soak them in cold water, rinse them off real good, move them around, get the the sand out of them because they're opening up and they're coming up through the sand, so they do have sand in them. And then you could blanch them for a minute or so and dump them in hot boiling water. Again, get rid of that bottom sand, and then you could saute them up with a little garlic and onions or just plain butter. They are just unbelievable. Free asparagus, but better.
Well, that's what I was thinking. You treat them like asparagus or maybe even a little bit like morels.
Yeah, yep. You got to rinse some morels off, too. Cut them in half lengthways, and then you're going to get all of the sand out of them. Do the same thing in the sink with water to float them, and then you're going to take them out, drain them off, and then do whatever you like with them.
David, if we want to try your cooking in person, where do we find you?
Well, Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse. We're at the corner of Birch Run Road, Dixie Highway, exit 136, just a tenth of a mile east of the interchange, right on the southeast corner.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. And after all these years, I'd have to find something else to do. And I just don't know what it would be at this point. So I appreciate you sticking along with me, sticking around, and following me on social media. Mike Avery Outdoors online. My email address, Mike at Mike Avery Outdoors. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And this show is called Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery, and I'll talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.